Have you ever seen a race where the cars go through a hotel? Monaco is a tiny place. The track is shorter than the distance of a short morning walk. It has very tight corners that look impossible for big cars. In 1950, a freak wave from the ocean suddenly hit the track and wiped out half the grid. It remains the strangest event in racing. Is it true that the track is made of special non-slip paint? That is exactly what I'm going to show you right now. The track that tries to throw drivers into the sea. Imagine you get a race car that costs $15 million. That is enough money to buy about 30 beautiful houses in a luxury neighborhood. Now, imagine someone forces you to drive that car on a street as narrow as your school hallway, surrounded by metal walls and giant boats. Sounds like a nightmare, right? But that is exactly what happens in Monaco every year. It is the strangest place in the world to race because, honestly, the track should not even exist. It is so small that you could walk the entire path in less than 40 minutes, which is faster than an episode of a cartoon on TV. But there is a secret hidden at the bottom of the ocean that almost ended Formula One, and I will talk more about that in a little bit. Think about it. Today's cars are huge, almost the size of one of those Chevy Suburban SUVs we see on American roads. They are made for wide, modern tracks, like the ones in Austin, Texas. And then we throw them into Monaco. It is like trying to squeeze an elephant into a doghouse. Drivers have to turn the steering wheel almost 4,000 times during the race. If you did that on your video game, your arms would be sore in 10 minutes. But why would they agree to do something so difficult? The answer is that Monaco is the ultimate test of courage. There, you do not even have room to breathe. In some spots, the distance between the car tire and the wall is smaller than the width of an iPhone. If the driver sneezes at the wrong time, the car becomes scrap metal instantly. But there is a problem. Since the track is made of normal streets where people drive to go to the grocery store or take their kids to school, the ground is not smooth. It is full of bumps and manhole covers. Pay attention to this. The organizers have to weld every single manhole cover to the ground before the race. If they forget just one, the vacuum from the race car can rip the metal off the ground and launch it like a flying saw blade. Imagine the danger of a heavy piece of iron flying toward someone. That is why everything in Monaco feels like it is on the edge between fun and a total disaster. And speaking of disaster, we need to go back in time to the year 1950. Back then, the track was even more dangerous because there were no safety walls like we have today. It was just the road and the sea right there on the side. On the first lap of the race, something impossible happened. A giant wave from the Mediterranean Sea simply jumped the wall and flooded the track right at the corner called Tabac. How did this happen? It was such a shock that nobody could react in time. The water made the asphalt as slippery as an ice skating rink. One car spun, then another, and soon 9 cars were piled up in a bizarre crash caused by the ocean itself. The legendary driver Juan Manuel Fangio was coming right behind at high speed. He could not see the accident, but he noticed something strange. He saw that the crowd was not looking at him, but looking the other way with faces of terror. Therefore, he braked even before seeing the crashed cars and managed to squeeze through the only tiny gap left. He won the race because he paid attention to the people, not the track. This shows that in Monaco, you have to fight other drivers, the walls, and even nature itself. It is a battle where the prize is glory, but the cost could be falling straight into the freezing water. Therefore, every turn in Monaco is an invitation to chaos, and it is exactly this chaos that makes it so fascinating for everyone watching. The dark tunnel where drivers go blind for a second. Imagine you are racing through a maze made of expensive buildings, and suddenly you enter a tunnel as dark as a giant cave. This tunnel goes right under a luxury hotel, the Fairmont, and it is the only place on the track where the cars can actually stretch their legs and go fast. But the problem is that inside, the engine noise gets 10 times louder, sounding like a never-ending thunderclap. And when you exit the tunnel, the Monaco sun hits your eyes directly. It is like someone shining a giant flashlight in your face after you have been in a dark room. For a second, drivers go totally blind at almost 200 miles per hour. But there is a hidden detail in the walls of this hotel that makes engineers lose sleep, and I will talk more about that in a little bit. If you are enjoying this topic, subscribe to see more interesting and different curiosity videos when they are posted. Driving in Monaco is so strange that mechanics have to change the entire car. They cut parts and adjust the steering so the wheels can turn more than usual. Do you know why? Because there is a curve called the Grand Hotel that is so tight, a normal Formula One car could not even get through it without getting stuck. It is the slowest turn on the entire schedule, where cars move at the speed of a person running in their backyard. Pay attention to this. Drivers have to turn the steering wheel so much that their hands completely cross over each other. If they miss by a single inch, the wheel hits the curb and the suspension snaps like a toothpick. But there is a problem. Since modern cars have become very wide and heavy, they take up almost the entire track. If a driver decides they do not want to let anyone pass, they can block the way like a parked truck in a narrow alley. Why would they do that? Well, because in Monaco, your starting position is worth its weight in gold. It is almost impossible to overtake. It is like trying to pass a runner inside a crowded elevator. Because of this, many fans say the race on Sunday is boring. But for the drivers, it is a human chess match where the smallest mistake means you are going straight into the wall. Therefore, they have to be perfect for 78 laps in a row. This leads us to a curiosity that feels like it came out of a spy movie. Since the pit space is so small, teams do not have those huge garages we see in Miami or Las Vegas. Everything is cramped, and tools are sitting almost in the middle of the sidewalk. Mechanics have to work right on top of each other. Therefore, the logistics are a total nightmare. But even with all this squeezing, there is one thing Monaco has that no other track in the world can copy. It is something that involves actual divers waiting for the worst to happen. How does it work being that way? I will tell you that since the dawn of time, the boats parked in the harbor are just as important as the cars on the track. They are so close that if a driver loses control, he could literally become a sailor by accident. Therefore, safety has to be totally different from any other place on Earth. The secret divers who save drivers from drowning. Can you imagine a sport where, to save an athlete, you don't just call a doctor, but a professional diver? Monaco is the only place in the world where this is normal. Since the track runs right next to the harbor, the risk of a car flying into the water is real. It has happened in the past and could happen again at any moment. That is why, while the cars are flying by, there are men with oxygen tanks ready to jump into the sea. But there is a secret rule about the Monaco podium that breaks all Formula One traditions, and I will talk more about that in a little bit. Remember how I mentioned engineers losing sleep over the hotel? Well, there it is. The Monaco tunnel is the only one that isn't straight. It curves. This totally changes the way air flows over the car. If the car's wing isn't perfect, the car could lose control inside the darkness. Pay attention to this. The air pressure inside is so different that it could literally push the car against the ceiling if it were at a specific speed. How did this happen? Actually, designers must ensure the car stays glued to the ground. Otherwise, it turns into an out-of-control airplane inside a concrete hole. But there is a problem. Monaco is a real city, not a real racetrack. This means there is no podium like in other places. You know that high place where drivers pop champagne that you see in Miami? In Monaco, that doesn't exist. Drivers have to walk up the royal stairs to receive the trophy from the prince's hands. Why would they do it in such an old-fashioned way? Because Monaco refuses to change. They want the race to feel like an event from the 1800s with all the elegance of royalty. Therefore, winning there isn't just winning a race. It's like becoming a knight of an ancient kingdom. And remember the divers? In 1955, driver Alberto Ascari lost control of his car and flew straight into the harbor. His car sank fast like a stone thrown into a lake. He had to swim out of the car and reach the surface by himself. Therefore, since that day, the divers never left. Today, they use fast boats and modern equipment. How do we know this if almost no one talks about them? They stay hidden, watching every turn near the water. Therefore, Monaco is a mix of extreme luxury and a danger that comes from the bottom of the sea. it is a track where the asphalt is painted with special non-slip paint, yet it remains the most treacherous of all. Monaco is a geographical mistake that worked, a place where physics seems not to work, and where the walls are the final judges of who deserves to be a legend. The Monaco GP makes no sense, it's dangerous, it's tight, and it is exactly because it is so strange that it is the heart of Formula One.